Life in a world locked down has been lonely for all of us. Those battling COVID-19 in hospitals are left to fight without friends and family. But those most alone may be the ones you've never heard of. Neighbors who are still struggling with symptoms of the virus months later.
It's been hell pretty much since March.
Ellen DeMarco woke up with a scratchy throat in late March and noticed she'd lost her sense of taste.
The next few weeks after that were pure misery. Like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath.
Months after testing positive, she's struggling with hair loss, nausea, brain fog, and sometimes she can't swallow.
I feel like at some point in time, this virus is going to take my life. And it may not be today and it may not be tomorrow, but I feel like there's going to be a long-term effect from this.
In the state hit hardest by the virus, doctors are seeing countless cases just like Ellen, often referred to as long haulers, dealing with symptoms weeks and months after they've stopped testing positive.
We're seeing a consistent pattern in thousands of patients in multiple countries. And I think at this point, the people that don't believe it are people who just don't want to believe it despite the science, despite all the observations.
Dr. Daniel Griffin is the chief of infectious disease at ProHealth New York, where he's treated more than 1,000 COVID-19 patients.
We probably have more people still suffering from COVID, unable to return to work, unable to return to their daily life the way they used to be, than people died of COVID.
They're not just in New York. Ellen lives in Denton, and there are others who want to bring awareness to a part of COVID-19 not often talked about.
Mentally, it is the biggest roller coaster I've ever been on.
Talia Dodds is in Fort Worth dealing with hair loss, and doctors say she had a mild heart attack while fighting for air.
I remember breathing was a lot like, imagine having a Capri Sun straw and having it in your mouth and having it duct taped shut.
This thing hit me like a ton of bricks.
Kenneth Nading would wake up in the middle of the night in Dallas unable to breathe. His heart so damaged by the virus, he now calls it a squeaky toy.
That's pretty much what it feels like. I can sometimes actually hear it if it's a real quiet room and it's really going.
Callie Fields in Grand Prairie,
thanking the Lord every day,
was the only one of the four who ended up hospitalized.
I cried a great deal.
She's been home for months since her 3-week hospital stay. Her hair is falling out so much she's afraid to brush it, and she struggles with insomnia and constant fatigue.
I'm pushing the cart maybe 3 hours down. By the time I get to the checkout, I have to stop and catch a breath. I didn't used to have to do that.
For months, they all thought they were the only ones, even doubted by friends and family.
It's very lonely. It's very, very lonely. You feel like, and it's not that they don't care, because I know that they care. That is not, they just don't understand it.
But then they found a Facebook group and each other.
They are being gaslit by their doctors who are diagnosing them with anxiety.
Diana Barrett was one of New York's first COVID-19 cases and is the founder of Survivor Corps, a Facebook group for long haulers.
We're talking about 25-year-olds who were marathon runners before, and they are 5 months into it and they can't walk to the corner.
They now have more than 100,000 members.
Banding together for us to encourage one another was the most important part.
One study found 87% of those hospitalized with the virus still had at least one symptom 2 months later.
I kind of took that step back and go, okay, now I have a group of people that know what I'm going through.
And I don't want to say gratifying because it wasn't gratifying, but it was so reassuring and so comforting that I wasn't losing my mind, that I wasn't stupid and I wasn't crazy, that it's really, really happening and I'm not imagining it.
But the page hasn't just provided emotional support.
I think that these groups have really helped to get this on the radar.
Griffin says doctors still don't know why some suffer long-term symptoms and others don't.
The current thinking is this is somehow related to some immune dysfunction that is provoked during the acute illness.
COVID-19 is not a virus where the only score is if you live or die.
I'd like to know what I can do to convince people to take this more seriously.
Talia lost her job, so did Callie, and Ellen and her husband are now both unemployed as medical bills pile up.
Yeah, we're having to sell the house because clearly we can't afford it. This virus has affected every aspect of my life.
No one knows how long the hundreds of thousands of long haulers will deal with the symptoms and impact of the virus.
I'll just be, watching a movie and then I gasp and fight to catch my breath.
But through Survivor Corps, they're now believed instead of doubted, together instead of alone.
That we have to encourage each other that we're going to make it through this.
The more people realize that this is real and that it's not all political and it's not a hoax, that maybe it'll be taken a little more serious.
In Fort Worth, I'm William Joy.